Thank you so much, every single one of you. Some of you, maybe many of you in this room know that I entertained myself during the worst of COVID isolation by taking on two new endeavors. The first was learning how to bake, which didn't do very much for my waistline and was really a big problem. The second was in some ways much more interesting because I took 2 courses in conversational Yiddish, something I had always wanted to do. Just recently in a conversation with one of my grandchildren, we came upon a word that I adore, a Yiddish word. There's a lot to love about the Yiddish language, but one of the things I like is that often one word says it all. And the one word I want to begin with is verklempt. So many of you clearly know what the word means, but I'll tell the rest of you. It means overcome with emotion. I am verklempt. You're not supposed to just say the word, you're supposed to say verklempt. There's so many people in this room to thank. I wouldn't dream of beginning to name names. Let me thank people by very broad categories. First, I bet you all can imagine what it means to me to have the Lichtman Legacy Fund, beyond the alliteration, which is ridiculous. I am very, very honored. And Delicia, I can't wait to get to know you better, and I know you're going to be a great star, and the National Partnership is lucky to have you. Jocelyn, thank you for coming up with the brilliant idea of the Legacy Fund, your way over the top introduction, and of course your leadership into the future. The National Partnership soars, and we are lucky for your sense of strategy. The extent to which you are revered by your peers and leaders in the National Partnership is just in wonderful hands, and it does my heart good. Of course, I want to thank the staff of the National Partnership, present and past. Many of our former staff members have traveled pretty far to come back here, and so I'm very, very thankful. I of course want to thank my family and friends, my 4 children, the wonderful daughters that we have and their extraordinary husbands, and my 4 grandchildren who are the lights of my life every single day. My husband, Elliot, of more than 56 years. My parents and my in-laws, who were just not only great cheerleaders of mine, but extraordinary cheerleaders for the National Partnership. And many of you got to know them over the years. And of course, the donors who have already given to the Legacy Fund, I just cannot thank you enough. You know, one of the great things in life is to have the opportunity to get paid to work on issues you care desperately about that might make a difference in people's lives, and for those people to become your colleagues then your friends, and for God's sakes, most of them my family. I am a very, very lucky kid. Sometime in the early 90s, a dear friend, Eli Siegel, gave a speech, and I think that speech it's something to do with Michigan, Jocelyn. And in it, he used a quote from Robert F. Kennedy, the father, who spoke in Johannesburg in apartheid South Africa in 1966. And it is a very famous quote. And Eli let me borrow the quote. And so I know it's annoying to be self-referential, but I'm going to do it twice today, so I'm going to be really annoying. I used that quote, and I'm going to give it to you again. And I found in the brand new, wonderful memoir by Judge David Tatel that he uses the same quote to launch the book. So the quote is, you've all heard it, I bet. Each time a man, and I'll say a person, stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest wrath of oppression and resistance. I like to think that Bobby Kennedy quote, we now know written by Richard Goodwin in another memoir written by his wife, Doris Kearns Goodwin, was actually written by Richard Goodwin. I like to think of that quote as my North Star for my journey in public service. I've tried to show that this woman, at least, can do her part to send forth a ripple of hope and to help form a wave to tear down the walls of oppression. And on my really good days, and today is one of them, I think I haven't done such a bad job. I'm proud of all the progress we've made, and I won't delineate all of it. We've talked about some, FMLA, and of course the passage of the Affordable Care Act, where my immediate successor, Deborah Ness, who's with us today, led that national partnership effort. The work we did, to raise the essence of the power of women in public life and in private spheres. I look at the federal and state judiciary, just marvel at the number of women and people of color who hold positions that were absolutely unheard of when I came to what was then WLDF in 1974. Championing caregiving and ensuring that civil rights laws were enforced and not overturned, and of course, all our fights on abortion rights. You know, I go back to Hillary Clinton and passion and optimism and persistence and resilience, and I think about all the wonderful things we've accomplished that I much prefer to talk about. And I think about what the Supreme Court did in overturning Roe v. Wade in the Dobbs decision. In some ways, this is an aside and not in my remarks, but I'm on the board of the wonderful Mississippi Center for Justice that was local counsel in the Dobbs case. So in some ways, my confluence of all my worlds coming together. Social change isn't linear. And I know that, but I'm not a Pollyanna. I'm mostly optimistic. I'm rather direct, and you could tell from the very discreet way that Jocelyn introduced me, there are times when people would probably wish I'd be a little less direct. And to be honest, when I think about the Dobbs decision and overturning Roe v. Wade, I'm in great pain. I'm enormously sad. I feel the gut punch that I bet every single person in this room feels, and I am pissed off. That's the only bad word, I swear to you, that I'm going to use today. I think about Hillary right now because she has said many times that the key to leading a career in public service is to have the passion and the persistence and the resilience, and those are the exact qualities that we need right now. You may remember, those of you who have in pain enough to read the Alito decision in Dobbs, that in what I characterize as a rather cynical, condescending statement, he said, quote, "If you don't like what we've done in this case, then go out and vote." So I think that is what women have been doing. We've all noticed, certainly in 22, certainly in the voter registration that we have seen. And I think voting as if our lives depend upon it is a very good idea, because our lives do depend on it. And so does our democracy. In conclusion, it's been the honor of my life to fight alongside all of you, and to make the commitment to make this world a better place a joint and collective effort, all the while knowing that it's a very hard job and it will be very hard to complete. Yep, there's much to do, and much for us to fight for, and much for us to fight against. Let's approach the work ahead with that passion and with that persistence, and certainly with resilience, and let's each of us act as our own tiny ripple of hope for tomorrow, because I really do have faith that our best days are yet to come. I started my reflections a few minutes ago talking about the Yiddish word for verklempt, and I want to conclude with parting words from my Jewish heritage and a quote from the Talmud, and, believe it or not, as Hillary suggested, a connection to Hillary and the fabulous musical Safs. When Shana Taub, who she mentioned a few minutes ago, won her 2 Tony Awards, at one of the acceptance speeches, and this is my second of the 2 self-referential quotes, she accepted the trophy using this quote. She said, the quote, "You are not obliged to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it." And that's my story. That's my story. As we move forward, we can never desist. We must always resist. And certainly, we must persist. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I am one lucky kid. I am very grateful to all of you. I have greeted many of you, but I'm keenly aware that I certainly didn't have time to greet everyone. I'm going to stand over there. Anybody who doesn't want or have to leave, I'll take and give many more hugs. Thank you all so much. There's lots of work to do.